We're just, we'll start today's Asia-Pacific Stats Café in a few minutes' time. I'll just, please just bear with us as we wait for the rest of our registered participants to join us. And we'll start on the hour.
I think we start now.
Okay, sure.
Good afternoon, good evening. We welcome you to the Statistics Cafe on Human Resource Management to Build Statistical Institutions. This is a side event preparatory to the 7th session of the Committee of Statistics, scheduled to commence on the 26th of August 2020. The session will be for 3 days. We are discussing the agenda, regional and national efforts to transform human resource management to build statistical institutions in Asia and the Pacific for the future. This is item number 4C, and the document is ESCAP/CST/2020/5. Let me first introduce my co-moderator of this event, and all of you know her very well. We have Ms. Gemma van Halderen, Director, Statistics Division, ESCAP. Can wave, please. On the panel, we have 4 distinguished and very senior officers of 4 countries: Mongolia, India, Australia, and Russia. Let me introduce each one of them. We have Mr. Yalalt Ganbat, Senior Statistician, National Accounts and Statistical Research Department of the National Statistics Office of Mongolia. We have Mr. Praveen Srivastava, Chief Statistician of India and Secretary, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation of Government of India. The third panelist, we have Ms. Teresa Dickinson, Deputy Australian Statistician, Census and Data Services Group, Australian Bureau of Statistics. The fourth panelist is Mr. Ilya Matyusheva, Deputy Director, Russian Federation Statistics Service, Rostat, from Russian Federation. I welcome you all to this panel discussion and thank you for all sparing your valuable time. We all know that human resource management is critical to the national statistics offices. Good HR policies suited to the developments in the field bring about quality and timeliness in generation of statistics desired by policy and decision makers and the people at large. Customary knowledge that customer However, in a major change brought out by Vineet Nair in HCL Technologies, which brought out a new vision to management through his book, Employees First, Customers Second. And there has been a lot of discussion on this issue for a long time. But we need to keep in mind that HR policies are directly relevant for the management of the human resources, and therefore make better commitment and better services to the people. Before we start the proceedings of this event, let me request all of you to keep your mics on mute if you are not speaking. We shall have 2 rounds for panel to express their views. The first round would be of 10 minutes each, and panel will respond to specific questions. The second round will be of 5 minutes each to summarize the views and make any additional points relating to the agenda paper on the subject which has already been circulated and is in public domain. Thereafter, we shall have a session for participants to ask questions or comments or suggestions for about 30 minutes. Participants can send their questions in chat. Please do indicate your country and organization when raising the question. We shall try to raise those questions to the concerned panelists. Now I request Ms. Gemma to brief us the background of this agenda and how it has become a part of the agenda of the Committee of Statistics, what kind of discussion it should generate. Thank you, Gemma. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ashish, and thank you very much to our panelists for being here today and to the audience who are joining us at today's Stats Cafe. As Ashish said, today's cafe is part of preparations for our forthcoming Committee on Statistics, which is being held at the end of August. And in preparation for the Committee on Statistics, our Bureau, who guide us, the Secretariat, on preparations for the committee, asked us to concentrate this committee meeting on 3 priority issues that they see as for our region. Those priority issues were human resource management to build strong statistical institutions, accounts, including national accounts, environmental accounts, satellite accounts, a whole range of accounts. And the third issue was big data for official statistics. I think it's really important I was very pleased that the Bureau for the Committee on Statistics identified human resources as a key priority issue for discussion in our region. It puts in prominence the importance of skills development, and also talent management, and also human resource strategies for our countries. There's so much going on in the statistical arena. We've got our business that that we've been delivering for so long, as well as new areas such as the area of big data, modernisation. We have the new challenges that COVID-19 has presented to us, and the opportunities that it also has presented to us. And so this time about, well, what is the human resource strategies that that your country may benefit from and need? What talent do you need? What skills do you need? I think these are very good questions, and I'm very excited to hear from our 4 panelists today. We've asked our 4 panelists to share their perspectives, and they've been chosen because they also come from a very wide perspective. Developing nations as well as developed nations, large countries, small countries. We also have with us today countries who are providers of services and support to countries to build skills and build talent. And we also have countries here today who are also the receivers of a lot of the programs that are delivered or offered not only by the development system, but also by countries in our region and more broadly. So we've gathered today with us quite a good broad cross-section of developed and developing countries, large and small countries, provider of support and receivers of support. And I'm hoping that across this broad spectrum, we can get a perspective that is relevant to you and your national circumstances. So without further ado, I'll hand back to Ashish, but I'm very much looking forward to hearing from our 4 panelists and thank them all again for giving us their time today, and to Ashish and CEAP for hosting today's event. Thank you very much, Ashish. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Gemma, for very interesting and very informative remarks to begin the discussions of this panel. Let me first take my first panelist from Mongolia, Mr. Hilal. Keeping in view the demand on official statistical systems for tracking progress on SDGs and to build back better after COVID-19 pandemic, there has been need for restructuring of the human resource setups in the national statistical systems. Do you think sharing of information by regional and global institutions on HR systems and practices adopted by the countries in this regard can assist NSOs in developing better HR policies, in nurturing talent, how the process of restructuring of HR setups can be further facilitated? Mr. Yilal, you have 10 minutes to respond to this question. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Mongolia, our NSO has a small number of staff members in relation to the countries from which our other panelists are attending. We Mongolians are under nationwide lockdown since March this year, and at the moment we don't have any COVID cases at the national level. For the first question, we've reviewed the document under 4C, item 4C. It's very useful. We support the sharing the information by regional and global institutions and national practices. It's important and important to develop the human resources policies and practices. And we, at the moment, we have prepared a draft of our corporate human resources policy that will address some issues such as the high-level management, leadership, and skills development, and staff recruitment, and merit system, and human resource risk management, and the social security of the staff, and transparency of the information on our human resource. For the yes, and the NSO, we as a national coordinator of the national statistics system at the national level, we offer training courses of different levels for our staff members and also those from ministries and agencies of the government. And due to the COVID-19, all the training activities planned for this year have been postponed to the late of this year. And as of the first half of this year, we only conducted 3 training and workshops, whereas in 2019 we organized training courses for our 120 staff members from the headquarters, the local statistical units. As for the international training, as you know, the international training plays a crucial role building the capability of our staff members. The training courses provided by the CEAP, Statistical Institute for Asia-Pacific, and I take training courses from your implemented by the Indian government. They are we benefit from these training courses a lot, and as of the first half of this year, only 6 staff members have attended 4 international events, and also 16 staff members took part in 15 online and events.
Please mute. This mic is on.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, we can.
Yeah. So that's all. Yeah, I've concluded my part.
Thank you so much, Elad. We will be listening more from you in the second round. I request Mr. Praveen Srivastava from India to address the following issue. In the present context of massive impact of technology on the official statistical systems in terms of data collection, processing and dissemination of data, and also use of non-traditional sources of data, there's a need for having personnel with appropriate skills in the national statistical systems. How this can be achieved? You think regional and global organizations can provide support to NSS, that is National Statistical Systems, in achieving this objective, and how can this be done effectively? Praveen, please, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Ashish and all colleagues for giving this opportunity to India. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, so I have a very short presentation because the question that you have raised is something which is, I think, burning in every national statistical office. And I'd like to share with you what India has done and then respond to the specific question. So I have a very short presentation. Let me just see if I can share it. Just 1 minute.
I'm not sure if it's come up yet, Praveen. It's Gemma here from ESCAP.
Yes, Praveen, it is not yet come, and we are not hearing you also.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there. Ashish, we seem to have lost Praveen.
Yeah.
I wonder if we should move on to Teresa and try and get him back.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, let me move to the third panelist is Teresa from Australia. My question to Australia is, Australian Bureau of Statistics is providing a lot of support to the countries in the Pacific region in terms of capacity development. Do you think that the national statistical offices in the Pacific region, especially in the countries with very small statistical setups, need special support in terms of skill development? How is this presently being achieved? Do you have any specific suggestions for statistical training institutions, especially like CEAP? Ms. Teresa, please. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you, Ashish. Thank you, Gemma, for organising this session on a very interesting and important topic. I think no matter what the Stats Office is, we all face challenges in building the capabilities that we need. Gemma's very kindly sharing my slide presentation, and I'll at this point invite her to actually move to slide 3, because slide 2 simply recaps the question that I've been asked today, which is a question in 3 parts about specific needs of the Pacific region, what's happening, and any suggestions that I might have. So let me just ground this short presentation by saying that I want to begin by emphasising that I'm not here today to speak specifically on behalf of Pacific National Statistics offices. I'm not in such an office. Rather, I deal with them through technical interchange and capacity building. And the observations that I offer today are on that basis. So I really invite those today attending from the Pacific Island nations to join us in the discussion and to augment and challenge my perspectives. A little bit of context, first of all. The background paper that we have categorises statistical offices and by population size and size of office. In the Pacific, the largest statistical office is about 200, that's PNG, Papua New Guinea, and there are a number of statistical offices that are only 2 or 3 people. And sometimes those 2 or 3 people are also the customs officers for their country. So really, we're talking about a number of countries that, according to the classification in the background paper, are micro-level statistical offices. And so we wouldn't expect that they would have, other than perhaps the largest ones, any formal training units. And moreover, when offices operate with such a small number of staff, loss of even one staff member can create a significant gap. And there's a well-worn path in the Pacific where good people enter statistical offices, work for a few years there, build their capability, and then are sought by other ministries. And so there can be quite a relatively quick turnover of key staff. So that is a specific need, that not only are the offices very small, but that there is a key person risk associated with offices in the Pacific. Small offices mean too that staff need to be across both a breadth of statistical issues. If you're one of only 1 or 2 or 3 people who might be working on social statistics, there's a lot of breadth to cover there. And as well, the increasing sophistication of the statistical work in the Pacific around analysis and dissemination and use of microdata means that there's a depth of understanding required as well. So there's really some very specific challenges around being small, and also the growing sophistication of the statistical work that's happening in the Pacific. I will go on to say that there's a variety of training activities and formats, and I want to differentiate here between the formal training that might be available from quite a number of sources and the types of on-the-job training and skills transfer. More and more donor agencies and other agencies in the region are concentrating on skills transfer as part of the work that they do, sometimes through formal training and sometimes through direct working together with officers from Pacific Island NSOs. So that covers off, I think, the issue around special support or special needs of the Pacific Island countries. Let me move to a bit of a description on how this is currently being achieved. That's the next slide. I'll begin talking and I'm sure the slide will catch up with me. So there's a range of sources and agencies involved in training. 3 of them are listed there: the Bureau of Statistics, Statistics New Zealand, and the Secretariat of the Pacific Community. But I could have filled up 2 or 3 slides. There's many others. There's the University of the South Pacific, the IMF, the World Bank, CEAP, of course, and China, just to name a few. As the background paper suggests, there's no shortage of training providers. It's navigating the offerings that can be a challenge. And each of the providers that are mentioned here on the slide and that I've just listed have different offerings and different approaches. Sometimes it's formal training in statistical work, sometimes it's more on the leadership side. And I'll just expand a little bit by talking about work that we've done recently in the Pacific and that Stats New Zealand have done. So the ABS has focused primarily on leadership of statistical officers. And we've done this through running a Pacific Leadership Forum once a year since, I think, 2014. We do that, it's funded by our Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. We collaborate with Statistics New Zealand on this and often bring in other agencies and external presenters. While the overall theme is leadership, we focus on specific themes. We focused one year on statistical storytelling. We focused last year on the place of statistics in an environment of contested truth and alternative facts. We also support leadership development through one-on-one mentoring of senior staff. We have some programs, particularly with Fiji, but elsewhere as well. And we focus on middle management training. So for us, we've taken the position in this crowded marketplace of providers of looking at statistical leadership. We also do some specific projects on statistical pieces, such as working with PNG on their national accounts and Fiji on prices. That is part of a range of work that we do. That is bespoke, that is designed country by country. And those pieces have a training and development arm to them as well, while we're working with the agency on the technical work. Statistics New Zealand do a number of things. They run a certificate course that doesn't just focus on the NSO staff, it also focuses on statistical literacy and capability amongst public servants, civil servants in general. They offer a terrific program of immersion placements where statisticians from countries such as Vanuatu come to Statistics New Zealand and continue their work while in Statistics New Zealand for a period of 6 weeks. And so that's really immersion, mentoring, coaching. And they also provide some technical support. So that's just a couple of examples. I'll move on to the third part of my question, which is suggestions for statistical training institutes. The first suggestion that I have, of course, is that training programs need to be tailored and fit for purpose to meet the needs of small NSOs. This has traditionally been very difficult for the mainstream providers, including CEAP. Travel distances and complexity make it very hard for many of the NSOs in the Pacific to attend face-to-face training in Japan. E-learning is starting to help, but there's also the capacity issue to be able to give much time to structured training. So modularization of training is very important. The background paper notes that CEAP is putting in place a modularized web-based learning management system, and I think that that's to be applauded. That could well be a greater support to the Pacific. Noting that countries in the Pacific are very tech-enabled these days, so being able to participate in events like this or online training is not a barrier. And so the more that can be done through e-learning and in short modules will go a long way. I talk there about training institutions engaging better and earlier, and this is about really understanding needs. The background paper to this cafe offered a number of mechanisms, a number of groups, a number of approaches, and I would encourage those who are organising those various networks and arrangements to make sure that the Pacific is well included in them. Better coordination of various providers. So the mapping exercise that is foreshadowed should help navigate and rationalise duplication around training possibilities. And I strongly encourage that exercise to take a critical look at the plethora of options that are available and think about which of those might be most helpful to the types of agencies that I've described in the Pacific. I encourage looking at best practice models, and not just for training for national statistical officers, but also to support statistical literacy beyond the NSO. The final comment that I would make is to be really clear that for statistical training institutions to understand the difference between education, training, and mentoring. We do a lot of education, I think, of those in national statistical offices. It's harder to provide genuine opportunities for training where officers can use the skills that they're learning as they're learning them. And mentoring is a great support also in pursuing a higher level of capability for statistical officers. So I encourage statistical training institutions to be mindful of the offerings that they have in education, in training, and in mentoring. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. It's Gemma here from ESCAP. That was wonderful. Ashish, back over to you. Thank you, Ashish. We seem to have now lost Ashish. Sorry about this, everybody. Ashish, you're still on mute?
Okay, yeah, I was on mute. Sorry. Yes, thank you so much, Teresa and Gemma, for reminding me. And Praveen, I understand you have joined?
Yeah, I have joined. Am I visible?
I don't know. You speak. Yeah, you are visible very much.
Okay. So
Can
shall
you
I
go ahead?
start my... Yeah. Once again, sorry for technology, and something happened. I just don't know what happened. It just vanished. So let me share my screen again, and I hope it doesn't hang. Is my screen visible now?
Not yet.
Not yet. It should be visible now.
Yeah. Now it's visible. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So as I was mentioning, the challenges which India is facing is not unique to India. It is happening all over the world. And why human resources plays an important plank for all this is because statistics is one thing which is dependent on human beings and the skill set available in the statistical system. So just to recapitulate, the Indian statistical system is essentially decentralized. We don't have a centralized national statistics office. We have one ministry, which is the ministry that I'm working in, and we have central ministries as well as the state governments. all have their independent statistical systems, but they do coordinate with the Ministry of Statistics for statistical activities. We also have this the central bank, which is the Reserve Bank of India, and other regulatory authorities. But most of the data comes from either the census, the surveys, or the administrative data sources, which emanate from the ministries and the state governments. And that's why it's important that we need to ensure that people have an idea about the, I call it data sense. So how do we coordinate all this? Is we have regular interaction with the central government officers, the state government officers. We have large number of training programs in our training academy here in the near the capital. But we also organize an annual conference on central and state statistical organizations so that there is some homogeneity in thought and directions. For popularizing the use of statistics, we also celebrate the Statistics Day on 29th of June every year, and we recognize the work done by key statisticians all over the country. We have also instituted a few awards, and we are continuous interaction with international agencies. So just to tell you, on the central side, we have about 5,000 odd officers. The first one is the Indian Statistical Service, and they are around 800 odd in numbers. Then we have a feeder grade, which is the field force, which is about 4,000 odd. Now, these actually form the crux of the central government machinery. This excludes the state governments. If you add the state government, there will be many more. And that's why you'll understand that the training and capacity building is important, not only in traditional methods, but also in more and more contemporary tools. So there is actually an ever-growing demand for reliable and credible data. This is not understating what was there in the past, but the fact is that there is a sense of urgency, especially for the in view of the sustainable development goals. Everyone needs to perform and show that they have data to make evidence-based decision-making and be able to make mid-course corrections. Otherwise, we would not be in a position to reach the sustainable development goals. So the challenge that we're facing is that we will have to undertake many more surveys. We have to improve the administrative data sets, that you have the new and emerging data sources for telecom and taxation, which was there in physical form. Now they're all switched over to technology-based systems. And we're also trying to integrate this to a national integrated platform. Now, all of these interventions requires not only augmentation, that is a combination of in-house versus outsourced people, but skilling and reskilling of the existing and new workforce. We need to look at assessment and certification, that they are globally comparative and competitive as well. The huge amount of ICT interventions, we need to also partner with leading training institutions and skilling institutions so that the skilling ecosystem for data and statistics is enhanced manifold. What happens today is that, as Australia was mentioning, you have separate courses for line managers, for communication, for leadership and whatnot. But also the existing leaders have to be sensitized on the use and necessity of data in their day-to-day decision making. So we have actually undertaken a major reform exercise, and our thrust is reform for relevance. We are looking at business or government process reengineering, open architecture. We're looking at partnership with key institutions. But the crux of the matter is capacity building on contemporary instruments and tools. So this, I want to thank the UNSD, ESCAP in time to organize so many exchange programs, as well as the seminars and workshops, which allows our statistical personnel to participate in both in a physical and an online platform. But important activity which you need to appreciate, that we are a country of 1.3 billion, and it's not possible to take on regular people into the mainstream activities of statistical data collection and processing. So managing agencies who are in the field to outsource your activities so that they can do it as per the data, the quality, the caliber, the reliability of information, That is really something that we all are going to have to struggle with. So this transition from provider of information to provide statistical services and products, and what I'm trying to propagate is be able to provide statistics or data as a service. We talk about platform as a service, solution as a service, but statistics as a service is something that we should all strive towards, and that needs immense interventions for capacity building and ICT interventions. So we have envisioned, we have a vision document for the year 2024, and we hope to achieve it on 3 major planks, which is strengthening the institutional framework, strengthening and technological and physical infrastructure, and effective human capital management using an integrated approach, so that we are in a position to monitor the economy in a real-time basis. For this, we are looking at a policy framework. We are looking at extensive and intensive use of technology, and looking at how do we improve our quality of surveys. So when we look at real-time monitoring of the economy, we are looking at how do we integrate the different sources of data, triangulate them, and make sense so that people can take decisions, whether it's the policymaker, public, or for research. So our planks, as I said, is institutional framework, technology infrastructure, and human capital management. And the SDGs has provided a vibrant platform during this COVID. In fact, I think it has awakened most of the statistical offices in terms of using online tools for not only training, capacity building, but also for data capturing. And this is something that we have tried to build into our system. We are looking at a cohort base, which I did not share with you, was that our statistical officers are essentially multitasking. We do not have subject specialists who can be put in a place and they continue for life. We have to keep on rotating them. So we keep rotating them based on a policy that we have evolved, and we are able to design a cohort-based training so that by the time a person reaches the bureau head, he has acquired experience in various sectors, various areas, various tools and technologies, and be able to perform in a way which is very efficient. So in this process, we are also engaging with we have a Ministry of Skills Development and Entrepreneurship. We are looking at a certification course, as I said, to build up the ecosystem, because the surveys in India are not only done by the government, there are a large number of private institutions who do it, and they are the least bothered about even sample size or representativeness. So we want to build in a cadre of statistical personnel who can actually be deployed and used by such research agencies, so that there's more professionalism in the data that comes out. What the national statistical officers have to face with today is that there would be certain delays in our own publications and our own releases, but there's a private sector which is mushrooming with scant data, but they come out very frequently, very regularly, and it's not a threat, but it's an opportunity for the NSOs to actually reform their own products and processes that become more responsive. So essentially, the 5th line item, which I mentioned on this slide, is creation of an agile institution to cater to emergent statistical demands. And we hope that with all these interventions, we'll have not only better data integration with minimal redundancies, but we'll have improved partnerships. And this, I think, answers one of your questions. We are partnering with a large number of training institutions in the country. We are also part of that global network of statistical training institutions. And we hope that we are able to share such courses across countries so that they can avail of it. And we expect that other countries will also be able to share their courses and provide us certification. Now, all of this is what I wanted to share with you. But essentially, all NSOs are facing and struggling with this issue, and I hope that we can take advantage of the learnings of all the NSOs collaborating, and CEAP is also taking the lead in training and capacity building. But what we really need to do is map skills to sectors, to like you were talking about national accounts or environmental accounts. How do I match and map what is the minimum skill set required before I can become a national accountant, and that if we can map, we'd be in a position to improve the system across countries. So that's all what I had to say. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Praveen, to giving this perspective in the Indian context and also which is quite global. And everybody is having this question to address, and we are trying to facilitate this process. Now I'll take you to Russia. There we have Mr. Ilya to help us understand. I have a specific question, especially relating to Russia, is that there are a number of global and regional opportunities for skill development for personnel in national statistical systems. Many countries have also been providing training to personnel from other countries for skill development. We understand that Russia has set up a resource center for providing statistical skill development training to personnel in Russian-speaking countries. How intensely the center can engage with the countries in the Central Asia for developing their skills, how this process can be further strengthened by the regional and the global networks like GIST and Asia-Pacific Network on Statistical Training Institutions and regional training institutions like SIAP. So Ilya, the floor is yours. 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumar. Russia was engaged in international training for over more than 20 years. But the previous history of our training is mostly the training of our statistician. When there was a transfer from planned economy to market economy, Russian statisticians were trained by an international team of experts. So today Russia became one of the international donors, and we want to share the knowledge that we have already gained during these years. Can you see the slides?
Yeah, please go ahead. We can see your slides.
Yeah, thank you. So I would like to present on one of our projects. This is a resource and training center. We call it CENTROSTAT. This institution is established by Росстат with the help of international organizations, and it's an independent institution, though it's established by Росстат. So a few words. What is CENTROSTAT? This is the place for leading Russian and international experts where they can exchange world best practices. And this is actually the institution and electronic platform as well. We want, by establishing this center, we want to introduce efficient operation in production of statistics in Russia and worldwide too. We also want to use this opportunity to promote the new ways of data collection. Now there is a challenge for Russian statistics, and I think worldwide, how to collect the data in more quick and efficient way. But still, we need to take into account the quality of data that we produce. So this center will be a kind of innovation center where you can test a new methodology. And Russia is a big, is a huge country. When we have also a lot of regions where we're expecting that we can test some new methodology, and then if it's efficient, it can be distributed to our partners as well if they're interested in this kind of solutions. And also there is an important thing that we want to make statistics clear and useful for our stakeholders, because in our country we experience the problem that it's always you need to explain how to use statistics, how the statistic is produced to policymakers, to public. And how do we see the services that can be provided to this by the CENTROSTAT Research Center? Росстат has participated in international projects for improving statistical capacity in Russian-speaking countries with the World Bank, with the UN agencies for a long time. So we want to continue these activities. We also, as I mentioned before, we also have pilot projects for development and implementation of new statistical methodology, which can be tested in Russia first and then shared with our partners or our potential clients. We also continue the consulting and training of Rosstat staff, and also we are open for training of other countries like Russian-speaking countries. So there is always demand for this kind of training. We also the other point is development of official statistical use and production skills among producers, because in Russia there are more than 60 producers of official statistics, other ministries and agencies, and we need to set up high standards of production for them and to have harmonized system of production of statistics in Russia. And one of the important directions of our work is a statistical literacy project. We want to promote statistics and using statistics in our country, and we will share the best practices of statistical literacy projects in Russia to our partners as well. We set up a group of clients as we see them. So, of course, in Russia, this is producers and use of official statistics. We also want to cooperate with international organizations and national statistical offices. We see among the partners universities, scientific and expert community. I would like to mention that with the project with ESCAP and CEAP, we have cooperation with one of the leading Russian economic institutes, High School of Economics. We also want to communicate the statistics produced to the non-governmental organizations, business, media, and just normal citizens, explaining the use of statistics to them. Advantages, but this is advantages as we see that in the country. This is many programs, many donorship programs that performed by Russia. We have an agreements with many UN institutions, and we have some projects already launched. There is an ongoing cooperation with the World Bank on statistical capacity building. With the ESCAP, there are a number of projects that were linked with the SDG topic. We are about to start the project with UNICEF on environmental statistics, with UNIDA industrial and business statistics, and there is a project with UNFPA coming on demographic statistics. And of course, I would like to mention that this institution will have a synergy with CEAP training programs, because with this project with UNESCAP and CEAP, we are translating some training programs, e-learning programs available at the CEAP e-learning platform, and also we will, there is Russian-speaking countries. Some have this common things, like in the way if we are talking about Commonwealth of Independent States region, and there are a lot of common problems. So we want you can have a slightly modified or adjusted programs so that will meet their specific needs. Just for you, to let you know how the to make it financially sustainable, we start the development of this institution with a project of with the World Bank and Statistics Denmark. We were inspired by many projects of our partners, and we know that India have a training center in Noida. We know that Australian Bureau of Statistics have done a lot in this area, and we also had an Australian expert, Mr. Jonathan Palmer from Australia, former Deputy Chief Statistician, Australian Bureau of Statistics, who helped us to develop the concept of the research center. The next step we are facing, and this is a support of new development bank that is BRICS bank, BRICS countries, which we hope will be able to help us with the sustainability of this institution. And also we expecting that this institution, the research center, will earn something, especially when we will produce the programs for our regional authorities. I would say that the Russian regions is sometimes looks like small countries. So this is a good solution for us to test our methodology or test new approaches in the regions of Russia. And a few words of what have already been done. This is a concept note of the training center or of the resource center that we have already developed. We already testing the online training platform based on Moodle software, and there are a number of e-learning courses that we are going to produce. Some of them they will be in cooperation with ESCAP within our project. Also, we will produce some of the online courses using funding available in the resource center. And one of the first projects of this research center is the project with UNFPA's demographic statistics, as I mentioned. So what we would expecting from this research center? It could be one of the regional and international center for statistical initiatives. We would like this is could be like a platform for statistical startups as well, for international and for international teams. We want to test new statistical products and statistical service to improve statistical literacy. One of the most important tasks is, of course, to have an integrated platform for statistical knowledge. The courses that will be produced by this research center will be available to everyone who is interested on free of charge. We also are going to develop and promote new solutions for official statistics. This is our plan, what we're going to do by the autumn of 2021. We want to have an operational platform, guidelines for preparing and for preparing training courses. So we are open for cooperation with authors from national statistical offices, from high schools, from private experts. And also we are going to continue our cooperation with the UN, especially with the UNESCAP and UNESCAP and ESCAP. And also we are open for cooperation with the experts. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ilya, for a detailed and very informative presentation. And we were really looking forward to this center which you have introduced to us today. And I hope this will be very useful. And I am aware that we are working very closely and trying to support coming up of this institution so that it can deliver an effective service to all the Central Asian countries, all the Russian-speaking countries, and it become a hub not only for the e-learning but also the physical face-to-face learning programs as well. So I look forward to better coordination, close collaboration with you and helping you in doing it. Now, first of all, I must thank all of you. I thought that it is a time that we should give opportunity for the audiences to raise if they have any questions. I have not seen any questions on the comments on the chat. So I don't know who would like to go ahead and ask any question. Ratna, can you allow people to ask questions? Is anybody raising hand?
Yes, they can unmute themselves and ask the question at any time.
Okay. So
And
anybody who
they can also raise hands or type their questions on the chat box.
So anybody who wants to ask a question, anybody from the audience, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead. Introduce yourself and
Yes.
ask your question.
This is Mohammad Emdadul Haq, Director, Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics. First of all, I like to thank all of you who organized such a session, such a useful session. I enjoyed it much. I think during the COVID situation, virtual meeting should be done frequently. That can enrich our knowledge and activities, how we can proceed. There is no specific question, but I want to let you know something about us, that we are going to observe 7th February as a National Statistics Day. So next year, we are going to develop our NCAF, National Quality Assurance Framework. Started it initially, and I think in this situation, UNCF can play a vital role, making frequent virtual meeting, or if possible, training with physical attendance, because in this situation we are very how we can proceed our activities. Yeah, so it will be very helpful if you time to time you make the meeting and you can guide us. Officers and staff can attend, since physical attendance, if you make a physical training program, then it is very limited scope to attend. But virtual training there is a vast scope to attend. So I propose that you can make training programs to develop statistical knowledge virtually and frequently as much as possible. We have NDCC, National Data Coordination Committee, led by our secretary. So data coordination is done, headed by NSO. Our secretary is the head of the statistical statistical informatics division. He is the head, and he coordinates every 3 months in a meeting, so that data cannot be overlapping or duplicating. And we are another thing I want to say, that we have a large number of human resources, that is about 4,339, 36 at this moment, but there is a huge gap. There is a lot of vacant posts that we are struggling to employ to fill up the vacancy. If we can do it, but process is going, but during COVID situation we cannot make it finish. So I think after the situation is normal, then we can be able to fill up the vacancy. And to say that.
Thank you. I think you have made your point. Thank you so much. And first of all, let me thank you for joining, and also bringing out that yes, we are nowadays, because of this COVID situation, delivering only e-learning programs. And to further facilitate this process, in the e-learning programs, we have introduced webinars. So the CEAPS programs are not only e-learning, but they have added 1 or 2, depending upon the length of the program, is a webinar where the participants can come and ask questions directly, apart from raising them and doing whatever they want to do. So we can continue to collaborate with the Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics. They have been attending a lot of our programs, and the moment situation improves, we will definitely welcome you to join. But also there are opportunities in the other countries which you should also look forward and see whether the people can get some training from other institutions. So there, thank you so much. I am getting one question from Dipanju Burgohen. The question is that from where can we get the country-specific demographic data or demographic mobility in transportation? This is a very specific question, probably not very suited for this kind of a session. Anindya Banerjee's question is, how do you resolve and reconcile the difference between official statistics generated by the government agencies and those generated by the private or international agencies? Yes, this is an important question. I'll leave this floor open for my panelists. Anybody wants to say anything on this? How do you reconcile? What are the methods of reconciliation you people are doing? Because we know that there are a different set of data and the countries face these difficulties. Anybody wants to say something? Teresa?
I'm happy to make a couple of short remarks on this question. It really is important because more and more official statistics are contested. There are other providers from the private sector, from international agencies, and more from social media platforms that produce statistics that can look official and can rival those from an NSO. This problem is only going to become more prominent, not less. And a couple of things that we do in Australia is that where there are rival statistics that have pedigree, if you like, that are thoughtfully produced, we engage with the producers, and we often publicise information about why the figures are different, and a lot of it is often to do with technicalities of inclusions, exclusions, coverage, over and under coverage, sampling methods, imputation methods, all sorts of things. And we can provide basic information to users and to the public about those differences. Where those statistics, where that information has less pedigree and is more produced from existing data on the fly, perhaps not with much statistical rigour behind it, we generally don't engage with the producers terribly much. And if we're questioned, we'll simply say that work is done on a different basis. So that has served us well so far, but I suspect that we're in the next little while, next few years, we're going to need to have a much more thoughtful, structured approach to working with alternate producers and to helping explain differences in statistics between ours and others. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Praveen, do you want to say something, what you are doing in India?
Yeah, I'd like to add on this. This is, a question that we always have to address, not only to the media, but also to the parliament on such and such organization has produced this. How does it compare with official and what not? So as Teresa was mentioning, engaging with these stakeholders is important, and there are two-pronged approach. One is, as rightly pointed out by Teresa, that if it has a pedigree, if it has some reputation, then engaging with them makes sense. And if it doesn't, then you just counter it by the methodology and the approach, saying that you have got a transparent, open methodology. It is open to public debate, and it's available for users to see that how official statistics are being produced. And since the fly-by-night operators who come out with statistics and just run away, there's not much need to engage with them. But what we have done in India is, even for the technical advisory committees, those which have got good pedigrees and standing in the market, we've included them as advisors in our technical committees. So it brings them on board. So that's one way of winning the battle. But the challenge still remains that we will continue to have such pressures coming from the public, coming from institutions, coming out with data. Like whenever we want to reduce an index of industrial production, you'll have the automobile manufacturer saying we sold so many cars. Now we have to go to the press and say there's a difference between production and sales. Sales could also be from the backlog. So those are things that, I mean, engaging through social media, countering these loose thoughts that come in the press is also a responsibility of NSO, and is included as part of the fundamental principles of official statistics. But it needs a dedicated social media team to get imbibed, and that is what we have done in MOSPI. We have started engaging through our social media handles, and I believe all NSOs should look at that. We understand there's a constraint. It is a skill set which is not generally available in an NSO. So you have to create a division to look at social media context, and that is something that we are working on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Praveen, for your perspective. Anybody else wants to address this question? In Russia, how do you think? Ilya, do you want to say something on that?
I would stick to Mr. Praveen Srivastava point. So just to say simply, this is an open methodology, openness of the statistical service in general, and constant communication.
Right. Thank you so much. And Elaj, you want to say something? How do you manage in Mongolia about this differing data sets? Are you able to hear me? Mute yourself. Unmute yourself. You are muted. Yes.
Sorry, the other panelists already said well what I am going to say. So let me add something. According to the fundamental principles of official statistics, NSOs has the right to comment on the realness or interpretation. So we also have a public relations unit where staff has the job to look into the newspapers and social medias, and she has the right to comment and provide related technical remarks or comments.
Thank you. I have another question, which is from Malai Fono from Samoa. This question is for Teresa's comment. We do acknowledge the great contributions of online courses for Samoa, but the providers must also be mindful that other small NSOs in the Pacific very poor connectivity, and this is a big challenge for the online courses. Is there another option available for NSOs with poor connectivity? Would you like to address, Teresa? Before I do it, I also have something to say on this.
Certainly. So I'll keep my comments very brief. Fauna, lovely that you're online and joining us. Thank you. And thank you for that timely reminder. As I saw your question pop up in the chat, I immediately thought, yes, of course, that was a point that I should have made clearer, that some Pacific Island countries have real challenges with connectivity. It brought to mind the difference between engaging in an online course live with presenters and other classmates and being able to download courses and do them in a modular form. And it's really important that training providers are mindful of some of those constraints around connectivity and provide options that don't require the live sort of setting that we're in now. And I'll offer next comments, of course, to Ashish, who will have much more expert guidance on this.
No, thank you so much, Teresa. You have really made the right point. What we do in CEAP is, when we have these kinds of courses, we also provide a PDF version so the people can download the course material and go through it, and then can, even if they have a limited access to the connectivity, they can still learn. So that's what our purpose is. Thank you so much for this question. I have another question for Australian Statistics Office. How is your HR policies for statisticians? In your NSO, do statisticians change their department every 5 years? Do you think this would be applicable for developing NSOs as well? Teresa, please.
Thank you for that question. I'm going to presume here that by changing departments, you mean changing to a different area of the NSO. We don't have a formal policy around this, but it's certainly true that most people will spend time in different areas, often within the same family, perhaps within macroeconomic statistics or social statistics or IT, but not always. There's a lot of movement between those areas as well. There does come a time, though, because we're a larger agency, there does come a time when people need to make a choice between whether they want to become technical experts in a particular area or whether they want to become experts in a particular function, or whether they want to think more about management. And when they make that choice for themselves, we can work with them to form a pathway that's right for them. So we don't have formal rules around 5 years or 2 years or whatever, but we offer options. But at the same time, we can't offer every option. You can't be a generalist, a specialist, and a manager leader at once. At some point, you have to figure out what your career is going to look like. So that's how we handle that.
Thank you, Teresa. That's a very good insight, because many NSOs struggle with this question of how to move around people, and then there are vacancies, you have to fill them up somehow, even if you do not get the best set, but still you get somebody to do it. But that's unfortunate, but there is a need for some policy on that issue. I moved to Mongolia. There is a question from Malafeno Tao. How are you managing your usual business with the lockdown since March? Are you working from home, and what are the challenges in the working from home? Yalal, please.
Okay. Thank you for the question. The government imposed a nationwide lockdown, which is kind of not very strict, but the government allows public organizations to make flexible arrangements for the business hours. So especially for mothers with small children, and those who are sick can work from home, or the public institutions can reduce the business hours per day for those who are in need.
Thank you. I move to the next question, which is from HR of Statistics Indonesia. Statistical organizational structure is based on the business's processes of GSBPM. How and what are the keys for ABS Australia, or perhaps others who are in the panel, can maintain this transformation while doing the usual business and manage the human resources through the transformation process. Teresa, you would like to address first?
Thank you, Ashish. Wow, this is a big question, isn't it? This one's quite complex. I think, look, I don't have an answer. I'll offer one thought, and then others can perhaps counter it or build on. And that is that it does all have to happen together. You do have to continue to build capability and to realign organisational structures while you transform and as part of how you transform. So strategy, structure, and other components of organisational design have to work together. And if one gets ahead or out of balance with the others, then the organisational transformation and evolution is compromised. That's not a very strong answer. It's a very general philosophical answer. So I invite my panel colleagues to perhaps offer something a little bit more concrete. Thank you.
Yes, Praveen, do you have anything to say on this question? It's a very broad question and it's a very difficult question.
So I can only give my thoughts again, like Australia. You see, we have also included the GAMSO, GSBPM and other things into our vision document. And we know managing transition is perhaps one of the biggest challenges in NSO when you have limited resources, both financially and HR wise. So what we have done in India is we are planning to take in consultants, that is at the junior level, senior level, and interns, as well as young professionals, to supplement our, augment our workforce. And as they, graduate to doing regular work, we could focus our attention, our regular people could focus attention on the transformation process and also get insights from these new consultants that are coming on board. So you need to augment people, because if you have to run systems in parallel with the existing workforce, it becomes difficult. You have your regular compulsion as well as additional transformation. So these are ways that you can address it, but it is for sure that you need to get extra people.
Thank you. Rasha, you have any thoughts on it?
Frankly speaking, not really. Okay, we are undergoing step-by-step transformation aligned with strategy. But I think the points with the consultants is really good. We have various councils, and we discuss, the key strategic issues on the councils. But frankly speaking, we don't have such kind of consultants at the moment. But this is really sounds really good.
Mongolia, you have any thoughts on it? Relance? You are muted.
Yes, not so much, but we have just commenced implementing the GSBPM, and we are looking into how we restructure our organizational setup.
Thank you.
Yeah, in line with the GSBPM, the process-oriented structure.
Okay, I have a question. How to prioritize training education needs of a large number of officers? How to determine what programs will have most impact? Anybody wants to address that question?
Yes. Yeah. I would just want to clarify. If we are talking about, national statistical offices from various countries, or we are talking about, in one country where there is a number of statistical offices. If we are talking about Okay, about the different countries, it should be definitely demand-driven from the countries. If we are talking about the country, I mean, it's like in Russia, we have also training for our regional offices. Of course, it's driven by our strategy.
Thank you. I ask another question, which is coming from Indonesia. I think this applies to each one of us, and please listen to it. This is Hanung from Indonesia. I am from Indonesia. Thank you for your questions. I would like to ask two representations from India and Australia. First, how to manage statistical field activities in this pandemic era, especially if the country geography are various technology burden. Secondly, how HR team manage the performance of employee during this pandemic. So the question is, how do you manage field work or the field surveys during this pandemic, and how do you monitor the performance of the people? They are doing good enough work, or do you want something to say? Yeah, let me start with India. Parveen, do you have anything to say?
Well, I can share what we had done in the Indian context. In the end of March, we had a complete national lockdown, so we had to suspend all our survey activities. From the month of May, limited, lockdown was lifted, and June onwards, it was again limited. So there were containment zones, and you could not travel. Travel advisory were there. But we had taken an opportunity. We had taken this as an opportunity to, rethink, rework, relook at our strategies. And what we did was that for not household surveys, but for prices and for production, we actually looked at taking and getting data on a telephone. So we had encouraged our investigators to get in touch with the outlets, retail outlets for prices, and we also substituted the markets, because when they were travel advisory, you could not reach the retail rural market. We substituted them by nearby ones. So substitution of markets, substitution of products, and it's not a one-off thing. We had, in fact, very intense discussion with other countries like USA, Canada, UK, and all before we evolved this criteria. What has taken a hit is the household surveys. So what we did in the month of June, we came up with very stringent guidelines on what our survey enumerators should do when they visit a household. And those guidelines were circulated to all these 38 state governments and UTs. And we had actually sensitized the state government that we are sending our people to the field with adequate protection measures in terms of masks, in terms of sanitizers, and keeping social distance.
Yeah, we have also to address to Teresa, and we have very limited time.
So very quickly, so we came out with guidelines, and we have started limited field work.
Okay, good.
So we cannot catch up on what is lost, but for prices and all, yes, we were able to capture whatever we could.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to make your point before you leave? I think you're leaving for the meeting.
I'll make the general point that we too have put in quite a number of accommodations and changes to how we run our field operations. On the business side, we don't generally visit businesses. We do phone follow-up. We have still some paper surveys, but also online surveys. And our phone questioning and our phone follow-up has continued unabated. Although we've had to make changes to how staff work in the office, and many staff in the ABS are now working from home, either full-time or part-time. We have found a drop-off in business response. Businesses have either had to close or have struggled to prioritise ABS work, and so we've had to think carefully about sampling regimes and how we respond to businesses that are finding this difficult. On the household side, we had initially, in the height of our first wave, removed all field officers from the field. For household surveying, we moved as much as we possibly could to phone and mail first approach for surveys. And then we've just, depending on the area and depending on the work, we've started to put some field staff back into the field, but first of all, just for dropping off material, not for interviewing. And now we're starting to think about interviewing, but we have our second wave starting in Australia now, particularly in the southeast part of Australia. And we're starting to have to rethink that again. So it's very much a fluid situation where we have to be dynamic about how we manage our field force and then how we manage the statistical impacts of what we're seeing. So our methodology area is working very, very hard to support the business in understanding the impacts of changed approaches to surveying.
Thank you. Rasha, you have anything to say about how you are managing this pandemic situation, about the field surveys?
We used phone surveys, and this is okay. I think it was about technology burden, but just to mention, we used a lot of opportunities by providing the service of internet surveys to business and to households as well.
Okay, one more suggestion which has come. I would like to take to a suggestion from Aishat Shahuda. She's from these short workshops and training courses, if can be combined to give recognition at international level, will be good at regional training institutes. Currently, it is not recognized at a country level for staff promotion. For example, following certain short courses will be counted as diploma, etc. Can be something useful for smaller countries with limited training capacity. Any thoughts on this this suggestion? We are almost reaching the time, so very quick suggestion anybody has?
Well, I would like to just add what we are planning, as I mentioned in my presentation about cohorts. That is something we can look at in terms of developing a modular based training. So you have level 1, level 2, level 3, and then if we could get an international recognition through CEAP or ESCAP, then we can. I think it'll help the countries that are asking those questions. Okay.
Anybody else wants to say anything?
I think the participation of higher schools and issuing diplomas of higher schools will also be could be useful.
Okay. Okay, we will conclude this. I would like to thank my panelists for today's discussion. It has been a very useful, productive, and very constructive discussion. I'm sorry I have not taken all the points which have been made in the chat, but I think I have taken a lot of them. And I would also like to thank Gemma for joining us and giving the perspective of how this whole document has come in, how this discussion is going to be in the Committee of Statistics, and all the participants who have spared their time, a very large number of them, some of them left, but all of them have spared their time, contributed to the discussion here, which is very important, and we'll see to it that somehow it gets factored into the discussions of the Committee of Statistics. Thank you so much. Gemma, you would like to say something?
No, I'd just like to echo your thanks to everybody, to our 4 panelists who's given us a very good perspective from across the region, but also from all of the questions in the meeting chat. They're very good questions and very good responses from our panelists here today, and we will definitely be aiming to reflect these conversations and continue them in the Committee on Statistics in a few weeks' time. So thank you very much everybody who's been part of the conversation today, and we look forward to continuing it in a few weeks' time. Thank you very much, Ashish. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Very kind of you, all of you. All the best. Have a great time.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you very much.